midday here in CCT South America. My name is Bamulf. Toltris is right there. There we go. We got the hand signs right. And we're going to start here with the Starbacks versus Amaru Gaming. Toltris, there were a lot of 2-1s yesterday. Starbacks and Amaru both took part in some very long games, pretty interesting games. Give me your first thoughts on how this matchup is supposed to go.
Well, first off, I would like to point out that the 2-1 series between Amaru Gaming and Legion Gaming, Pat O'Donnell, he had a good performance last series as well, but that one was a bit of a surprise. I thought that Amaru Gaming would have been the heavy favorites, would have probably had a clean sweep against Legion Gaming, and it does seem that Amaru Gaming looked a lot better when they were in the upper bracket. And ever since they have dropped down, I mean, Legion Gaming took that first game, and Amaru Gaming won a 50-minute game in that second game and a 45-minute game in that game number 3. So it does seem like maybe the momentum is slowing down for Amaru in this lower bracket. So against the Starbacks, who won against BTC, who are the underdogs, maybe we may see a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see. I think a lot of that game 1 with Amaru, where they did fall down, it was a little bit of a draft issue, but primarily I think it was just not giving Legion Gaming the credit that they deserved. And what happened in that game was Amaru Gaming they were playing the standard, they were just trying to split push, play their lanes, do whatever. And Legion Gaming was swarming as 4 or 5 heroes. They were playing through the gate, they were TPing in to support their heroes, and it was like 6-0 by 7 minutes. It went to 10-0, like 10-1. You just built this net worth lead by just chain killing Amaru. I thought Amaru got their heads on straight. They were able to go and stabilize and go from there. So I think you've learned from that one. But for me, when we take a look at this Starbacks Amaru Gaming, my eye is on the Huskar, because we saw Amaru win with a carry Huskar in their third game. We saw Starbacks win with a Huskar. It's a very popular hero in the meta, right? In the South American scene. And both teams are winning with it. So my big question as we get ready to eventually go into this draft is a very simple one. Is that going to get through the pool? Is Pike going to get access to his Huskar? Are we going to see Angel get access to his carry Huskar? Is that going to drive the draft? How much is that going to drive the draft?
And a lot of these later matches in these playoffs are coming down to one lane being a stomp for one side or the other. A lot of comebacks are also occurring, but you're right, the Huskar is going to be on the spotlight as far as the pick or ban goes. The Ember Spirit is also going to be a big one for Wonderkid. It does seem like every single game that he gets given his Ember Spirit is Amaru, even if they're behind in that early game, they somehow manage to win. So for Starbacks, considering that they also have a playmaker on that mid lane, may not be as flashy as Wonderkid, but is a playmaker in his own right. So they can also give him the Ember, but if they don't, ban that out. And you can fight for the Huskar, or you can try to play around that Huskar. It is a best of 3, but both of these two teams have certainly a lot of their own niche hero pool that they do excel at. Even Blesskid, we were talking about Lelis and how good he was on his Centaur performances. Blesskid also has some pretty good Centaur performances, so it will be interesting to see these clash of heroes in the draft phase in specific.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I don't want to see is what we saw. Actually, in fairness, they were eliminated, but what we saw from BTC Gaming in Game 3 yesterday, they tried to do something fancy. They said, look, we're going to counter this Huskar in lane. We're going to play position 3 Wind Ranger. He's going to take kill shot. It's going to be a great time. The problem is when you don't have a big body in the offlane, we don't have this front line or a builder, the mid-game team fights become impossible. Yeah. You can't go, there's no one to just sit in front to soak the damage. And then you got to play this awkward game of, can we kill a hero, back up, kill a hero? And that's a complicated thing to do, right? That is a very high level of execution cost. And I don't know that we're going to see that. Again, that was something BTC did, but it can be tempting to try to counter these lane dominating heroes, these Huskars, whatever, because if they don't dominate lane, they can struggle. But there is, Toltris, there is an upper limit to that idea.
Definitely. It's also interesting that Infamous Gaming, they haven't exactly faced up against any of the underdogs or even Amaru Gaming. You know, when we take a look at this playoff screen before us, they did defeat X5 Gaming 2-0, but before that, they really had not faced up against some of the other tough competitors. Of course, credit out to BTC, they did have a good performance. It will be a very uphill battle in this lower bracket. I think it is kind of brutal just taking a look at it. Even if you take a win over here, you're going to be going at it against Infamous Gaming in the next series. And I would like to point out that even though it is a 2-0 appearing before us between Infamous and X5, Infamous should have won that second game. They were so far ahead with that Timbersaw, but kind of bungled it with that buyback and that Roche fight that went just so awkward for them.
Yeah, that is very much the question, right? Can you go, not only can you build a lane advantage, which is very draft dependent, certainly, but do you know what you need to do to play in these mid-game fights? And in fairness to Infamous in that game too, they didn't know there was a ward. Pros and cons of that, like you should be dropping sentries in the middle of fights. You should be dropping obs wards in fights, so you have a bit of a vision advantage. Unfortunately, Infamous didn't do that. You know, again, we saw the buyback into almost an immediate dieback from the Timbersaw. His run away, it ruins the fight, game swings. But the bigger question, Toltris, yeah, okay, sometimes some of that happens in the mid game. Bigger question, how disciplined are these teams going to be overall? Are you going to make the smart move? Are you going to make sure that you don't go high ground with before you get a pickoff? Because that is the other side of this. We have seen these teams all tournament long trying to go push a high ground, running into the other team. There's a buyback, and all of a sudden the 10,000 net worth lead goes down to 2, and it all falls apart.
Taking a look at both of these two teams, I would actually consider Starbucks to be the one with more discipline. Now, whether or not that has to do with Amaru Gaming, this was something that I believe Otomo brought up yesterday. Amaru Gaming not only lost Wits to Bane Gaming, but before that, they also lost Tai Lung. So there are quite a bit of switch rounds happening that may or may not be affecting Amaru, because at the end of the day, they do have a protege. They do have Wonderkid, who looks absolutely fantastic on that mid lane. And I think for Starbucks, Wonderkid has to be the priority in their draft and in the game. Now, if Starbucks do have Pike, it's kind of, I would say, interesting in the sense that Pike has kind of a good performance or a bad performance, right? There's no in between. There's no stable performance that Pike is having in this tournament. So for Starbucks, they will have to adjust for that, especially when you were talking about those mid-game timings and how important those mid-game fights are. That is going to be key. And Amaru Gaming, they will pick up the Huskar right off the bat.
Yeah, I think this is likely. I think we can look at this as being Pike's Huskar for right now. Yes, it is flexible. I don't like Wonderkid on the hero, but picking this Huskar early, it really does. It fulfills two criteria. On the one hand, it gives you that tempo. Sorry, not Pike's Huskar, Angel's Huskar. But it gives you tempo. It fulfills that lane dominating requirement we talked about. But it also means that Wonderkid is not going to get Huskard. And that means we're going to answer immediately with an AA here. First pick AA. Was the last time you saw that one. But it does mean that Wonderkid, he can pick his Ember. He can get that in the second phase. He's probably not going to get cheesed out. And, Toltris, you and I, this entire tournament, we've seen just how absolutely dominant Wonderkid is when he gets his Ember.
Oh yeah, and it's also just the fact that even when you attempt to counter out Wonderkid, as some teams have by picking up a Viper, by picking up a Beastmaster, and you manage to take him down in that laning phase, he still somehow manages to recover, even in performances where he just does not die. So it's definitely going to be very key. Even in the series that Amaru lost against X5, Wonderkid had a phenomenal performance. He just was not dying on that Ember Spirit. So let's see. For Starbucks, clearly the plan is to counter out the healing that the Huskar is going to provide them. Largo is still open in the pool, so I do wonder if Amaru will go for that, or if Starbucks will choose to pick up the Largo themselves.
Well, I don't think it's something Amaru is going to do, because the Ancient Apparition is in the pool. And yeah, AA is maybe not... It's probably one of the better answers to Largo, but I'm not super sold on it. But you've already got this Huskar, right? It doesn't necessarily make sense to let the AA hard counter 2 of your heroes. It's already, it already has some value on a hero that's generally pretty bad. My question, actually, as we talk about this AA again, just 9-pick response to the Huskar, is there a world where we are considering this Huskar as a core? We have seen Huskar support very occasionally, but inner fire, the silence is solid. It allows your play to 5 or a 4 and it dominates a lane. And then you've picked an AA to counter a support that doesn't really matter all that much.
That could definitely be on the cards. I think in order to answer that question, we will have to see more of the drop, at least the first 3 picks from Amaru. But you're right, AA does not really trade in the lane against Huskar. Actually, I don't think the AA trades against too many support heroes to begin with. So you could definitely go for it. We have seen games in CCT South America in previous series where you do have a support Huskar. But for now, I think it's reasonable to assume that Amaru are in a good position with a core Huskar. As long as you pick up someone that can jump that backline, take that AA out. If it's not the Huskar himself, you can pick up certain other heroes that can do that. If the AA is not a threat, the Huskar core becomes a very viable hero.
It does. Again, what's going to happen in this game? Not totally sure. Centaur, of course, is going to be the pick. We're going to go Brewmaster. Centaur Brew, or excuse me, Huskar Brew is a very scary offlane because Burning Spears, I'm pretty sure Burning Spears ignites Cinder Brew. Apparition, there's nothing he can do. Of course, Brewmaster also just in general good at the AA. You pop frontal split, you run at him. You don't have to worry about being shattered. You can lift up the Centaur. But yeah, if this is a position for Huskar, that is I don't know what a Starback can pick to stabilize that lane.
Brewmaster is also pretty good against the Centaur. Just that one ability you talked about, just being able to send that Centaur up into the air. And if you can do that before the Stampede comes out, the Stampede is not going to be available for his team, which is most of the time a very good disengagement tool or a very good initiation tool. But in that use case, it will prevent their disengagement. And Amaru Gaming, they do have the Shadow Shaman. Again, at that level 15 mark, you get that natural break against that Centaur. So that's also going to be coming in handy for Amaru. Shaman isn't exactly a very ideal position for 5. So I would imagine this is, teams do play it as a position 5, but I don't consider Shaman to be that strong on the safe lane role.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If you have a strong position 1, say a Juggernaut or something, not that Jug is super meta in 7.40, but something like a Juggernaut, then you really love the double lockdown. You can go you can start to chain kills. But yeah, if it's one of these more standard position 5 or position 1s, probably a 4. Shaman, of course, really benefits from having a blink, from a little bit of net worth to its name. So I'm with you. We're going to counter with the other Shadow Shaman in the Lion. I'm not sure how much I like this. As I think about this more, I mean, it works well with the Gyrocopter. I mean, it actually doesn't, right? Because Lion's going to be position 4 here. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do anything to the Huskar. Huskar doesn't want to get stunned, but Mana Drain doesn't do anything. Finger of Death doesn't do a ton because of all the innate magic resistance that Huskar has.
Does the Mana Drain slow the Huskar if he has no mana?
Well, you get slowed even if you're at 0 mana, right?
Yeah. You get slowed when you get at 0 mana and if you're being mana drained. But the Huskar has an unavailable mana pool, not exactly 0 out of a percentage of the mana. So I've never seen it personally, so I'm not exactly sure. But I'm not sure about the supports from Starback. Sure, Lion is a playmaker. You can initiate really well, but it kind of feels very iffy. It's always going to be a question of, I get the idea. The Finger of Death is going to be that burst tool. You want to go on that Brewmaster, take him down before he gets that split off. But you also have that Huskar, who's going to be the target priority because the counter initiation from Amaru Gaming seems very severe. And for Starbacks, they're going all into this initiate on someone, drop down the Ice Blast, use the Finger of Death, use the Call Down, Stampede, and you can blow up this Huskar or Brewmaster. But in the scenario that that's not possible, Amaru Gaming will run all over you.
Okay, so we're gonna go Invoker. Wonderkid is a great Invoker. He really likes this Exhort Meteor Hammer build that actually he was the first one I saw starting to do it, but now we're seeing everyone go for it. Going back to the line for a second, the way it's written, it steals mana and it slows. So it should slow the Huskar by maximum 30%, but you're not gonna slow by the bonus 15% for the hero having 0 mana. Is I believe the way that's gonna work. So, but for now, I'm with you. I like this Gyrocopter pick. It's great into the Brewmaster. It's solid into the Huskar. Invoker's pretty low armor. It just all depends, as you said, about the initiation. Can we go jump on top of someone, or can Brewmaster get his ult off? Can Shadow Shaman lock down this Gyrocopter? Can we burst him? Because he is burstable, right? This is gonna be Galaron Invoker with a Shadow Shaman. If you get the good initiation, Gyrocopter will fall off the map.
And I suppose there is a bit of a trauma factor, considering how poorly the games of the Shamans went yesterday. Just absolute feeding overall, irrespective of who was playing the Shaman. Of course, that's not a fault of the hero, but we did also see Gyrocopters spiraling out of control where the other team couldn't actually close them down. And that will definitely be interesting to see. I don't think Starbikes are in that bad of a position in the current draft. I do think Amaru Gaming have more options though. Just the amount of control they're coming in with, that Deafening Blast on that Gyrocopter for that disarm. That means that you're going to be reducing the overall flak cannons that are going to be coming out too. You have the Tornado. You have a lot to hold in the Stampede disengagement that the Starbacks are going, or rather coming in with. So let's see. This should be a support hero for Amaru Gaming coming out right now.
Well, we'll see. I think there is still a world where this is going to be some sort of weird support Huskar just because of the AA. Your life can be very miserable if that's the case. But yeah, likely we're looking for something to stabilize the safe lane to work with him. But yeah, no, this is going to be the support Huskar. So Ursa comes in. It's a great lane versus the Centaur. It's pretty good versus Lion AA. It is fantastic against the Gyrocopter. Just jump on top of him. A Gyrocopter never wants to man fight someone. So, the fabled Huskar support. How do you respond to this as a Starbacks now? Because they've been drafting, again, this entire draft is built around assuming Huskar is the carry.
Yeah, it does seem like Amaru have caught them by surprise, not only with the good lane the support Huskar is going to provide them, but also with the fact that their off lane may not be going super well. Centaur versus Ursa, like you mentioned, and you were bringing up the point about the Ursa plus, the Juggernaut plus a Shaman. The Ursa plus a Shaman is a terrific combo. Just the Shackles to hold someone down while you go in with the Furious Slice. The Hex is going to be there too. Massive amounts of lockdown against that Centaur. This is going to be Amaru Gaming with 2 very good side lanes. And that mid side against the Ember Spirit, Slatum, sure, it's a skill-based matchup, but you also have to consider the Tornado is going to be taking out that Flame Guard. Now, that may not be relevant in the laning phase, but that is going to be relevant as the game goes on, just to be able to reduce that Ember Spirit's protection and also overall magic damage.
Yeah, again, you're talking about this though. Wonderkid has Tornado. So that Flame Guard that reduces the magic damage, it disappears. Especially because Wonderkid actually does have Mind of Tornaris selected. We're gonna have to see if he decides to go for that. But look, into the Ember Spirit, I think this is totally fine. Having the additional lift time on your Tornado is really nice. It cuts creep waves. The EMP dragging everyone together is pretty solid. I still like Cataclysm playing with this Shadow Shaman, but you can make the argument that, look, we have an Ursa. We're not... Okay, he's going to swap to Galaron. Fine. But I was going to say, you can make this argument that our damage, we don't really have that many issues. We just need to make sure the Ursa can play the fight properly. But again, it's going to be Galaron. I think that is... It would make sense, right, with the Shadow Shaman. I'm just really curious what this Huskar is going to do after the laning stage. Because I think, again, Brewmaster, Gardic Oscar, Brewmaster plus Huskar is going to annihilate this safe lane. Not going to be particularly close, but then you're a support Huskar. into an AA game. I don't know how you build there. I don't know exactly what you're supposed to do in the mid game. I guess you leap in, cut off 40% HP, silence someone, and die, which is it's value, but I don't know.
Could come in with a bit of healing, but their heroes don't actually need the healing. Ursa has the Enrage, Brewmaster will have the Split, Invoker's not going to be on that front line all that much. So you're right, I'm not sure what kind of utility the support Huskar is going to be bringing them. And I think the same thing could be said about the Ancient Apparition in some kind of way, because even if you build up for utility, the Ancient Apparition wants to be at a safe distance where you can get off that Ice Blast. Even though in this game, the Ice Blast is not going to be that effective of a spell because the hero you're supposed to counter with it is not going to be on a core. So even if you build utility for the Ancient Apparition, Glimmer Cape, or Solar Crest, or whatnot, you may not always be in the position to apply that on your Gyrocopter, so it's definitely going to be an interesting laning phase. I do worry for Starbucks though. Slatim is a playmaker. You have Bleskid on his perhaps successful hero, his favorite hero, the Centaur War Runner, but this is it's a question of, can you survive the laning phase? And even if you do, you're not going to have a good mid game either, because that Ursa warrior is going to be stronger than the Gyrocopter at that 20-minute mark. The Invoker will have more control than what your Lion is going to be providing for your team, and the Lion is one of the only sources of actual stuns they have outside of the Hoof Stomp that you need to get super close with. Homing missiles is too long. It kind of feels like Starbacks are going to be in a very awkward spot for the first maybe even 30 to 35 minutes of the game.
I mean, I don't really have a complaint with the amount of stuns, to be honest, that Starbacks have. Again, you got Hoof Stomp, as you said, you got Hex, you got Impale, or you got Earth Spike. That's 3 stuns, that's 3 just instant stuns. Earth Spike's got a little travel time, but close enough. That generally is enough. Plus, you get Searing Chains, Cold Feet procs, if you start to apply it when the stun chain happens. That generally is enough. Again, the problem is this Ancient Apparition. There's always going to be some value on the AA. You apply Ice Blast on a hero, you burst him down. Everyone's going to die but the Primal Beast. And yeah, it is undispellable. So I think even if you go into foul play, you pretty much pop as soon as the what is it, 3/4 of a second of being unstoppable or untouchable goes away. But you're not going to kill the Primal with that. But yeah, look, if you blink on top of this Invoker and Ice Blast him, he dies. Blink on top, certainly, of the Huskar, he's going to disappear. Ursa's got a little bit of enrage time, but it's going to force him out of the fight. So you definitely do have... AA is going to lose the lane. But AA is never a hero that is not going to have... AA is always going to have some level of value in a game.
I think that's a fair assessment. It's not just an anti-healing hero, it's a great burst hero, which means that even if you come up with auras, even if you come up with some kind of disengagement, it may not always be enough against the Ancient Apparition if you've already taken in enough damage. And they do have that contingency plan. They can just drop down that Finger of Death. And for the first 30 minutes, just that Ice Blast, Impale, Finger of Death combo, I do think that's going to be enough damage to even take the Invoker out. He's going to be going for, as we've seen in this tournament, the Meteor Hammers and the Aghanim Scepter. So not a lot of HP. The Meteor Hammer doesn't provide him with much. The Scepter does, but at around 1500 to 2000 HP, he's very burstable. At the same time, if the Invoker is getting caught, I would say that is a mistake in their positioning, because the Invoker has to be the one person that remains alive for Amaru Gaming. He's the one coming in with all of the control outside of the Shaman. He's the one that has that tornado to make sure his Huskar doesn't get jumped that easily, to make sure that his Brewmaster can go in and activate that split. So Starbacks may have options. I just think that Amaru Gaming have a lot more diverse of a playstyle that they can come in with. They can start things off with the split. They can start things off with the Ursa jumping in, Huskar support jumping in, as you said, 40% HP taken out of someone. That's pretty significant. They can go in with the Invoker's Tornado too. So quite honestly, I see 5 heroes that can initiate from Amaru Gaming, and for Starbacks, it has to be either the Centaur or the Lion who jumps in first.
Yeah, I think that is. I mean, that's always going to be true. You really need the Centaur. It's his job to build the auras. It's his job to be the body on the front line, to just kind of be this wall that makes it very hard to go through. But you know, he's not going to be as tanky as he is in some games. Yeah, he's got the Crimson Guard primed up right now, pretty much immediately after the Helm Dom, which is awesome. But you're into an Ursa. Ursa doesn't really care about a Crimson Guard that much. You start to build the Fury Swipe stacks up, and you're still going to go get taken down pretty quickly. And again, you do have all the control. You're going to be able to burning spears. 40% of your HP can be just removed. Okay, 32%, but eventually up to 44% can just be removed. And here, here's a thought. We know Huskar is not going to necessarily have the best game overall. You've relegated it to 4. There's the Ancient Apparition. I know there's some funky math where, like, if you buy a Kaya and you get some other spell amp, you actually amp the percentage that Life Break does. At least I know that used to be the case. So is there a world here where you just kind of turn this into a nuking Huskar that says, oh yeah, with all my damage amp, I'm gonna go and remove 60% of your HP and just that's fine. Like that's enough. 60% HP off the Huskar or off the Centaur means that's enough value for the fight.
I don't know if they're going to go for that route because, like you mentioned, you have the Ursa. So you have plenty of damage coming, and you also have the Primal Split, which is technically enough damage to actually take out that Ancient Apparition and that Lion. So maybe you would want to invest in more damage, but I would actually think that investing in utility could also be the right path. But like I said, Amaru Gaming, they have a lot of options. But I would like to ask you, do you think this is a good game to build up a Dominator for your Centaur because of the fact that you may not have a good laning phase? You're the only body on that front line, that you're talking about for his Starbucks. So is the Dominator going to be a viable tool for the Centaur?
I mean, I don't think that you're in this situation where the Centaur being the only body on the front lines is that much of a problem. It is a rare game where you have more than one like really big frontliner. Sometimes we're like Centaur Viper or something, but like that's fine. Centaur's job is to run in, to apply some damage, to just give vision for the fight as well, get the stun off. So yeah, I think the Eldom is totally fine there. Again, it's just the question of how is the lane gonna go? And this is actually really interesting. These lanes are not as I expected. And in fairness, I should have looked at who was playing the Huskar, but this is a position 5 Huskar, not the 4. And Yadomi is playing the Ancient Apparition. So we have Huskar into the AA. I guess it makes sense. You do like having a stun with a gyrocopter. It means that you can absolutely get these kills. You go get Rocket Barrage. If you ever leave lane, it's pretty strong. But yeah, Yadomi is going to get clicked down. And that's the problem with the Ancient Apparition. You don't have any HP. You have no mobility. You have no stuns. You have no damage. And I'm not sure, like, I like putting the Lion with the gyrocopter, that makes sense. But on the flip side, putting the AA into the same lane as the Huskar means this Huskar is, he's gonna have a nice breakfast, is maybe the best way to talk about it.
And I think the idea may have been to dodge that Huskar by sending that Ancient Apparition towards that top side, but I don't think this works out for Starbucks BO because, like you mentioned, Shaman on the position 4 role because he wants the Blink Dagger just for that extra initiation, but because Knight is on the position 5 Lion, he may not get to that Blink earlier.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see for now, though. Dive backside, foul play is not gonna be enough, and this Shadow Shaman will fall down onto the, oh, there we go. We do have burst damage into this Huskar. He doesn't really have a lot of stuff, right? You are a support Huskar. You are not really building that many, defensive items. You're not getting farm. Is a long and short of it. So if they do get on top of him, if they can get the stuns out on this, if they can't find him in place, this Huskar will die. But in the meantime, Ancient Apparition is just sad. Everyone is just very sad.
And I wonder if this, in the long run, works out for the Ursa because, like you mentioned, we just saw them being able to get on top of the Huskar, take him out. If that happens as a pattern, then the Ursa Warriors farm is going to struggle as a result. So Amaru Gaming quite clearly want to build up tempo on that safe lane, but in a situation where they're not able to, then their big source of physical damage, especially considering the Huskar is now their support, that source of physical damage is going to be reduced in a scenario where your Ursa has a delayed Battle Fury or you can't hit that good mid-game timing. So it's a lot of questions in this first game in this series in particular.
Yeah. For now, though, starting to get lanes separated a little bit. Gyrocopter's having a great time. That is kind of the other story of this. We saw a game yesterday where Gyrocopter just got off to a massive start, and the game felt really hard regardless of what was happening. So
it was against the Shaman too.
Yeah. You just got to get run down. All the power of the Shaman doesn't really matter. As Yodomi is going to go down here. Angel dodges the hoof stomp. I don't think actually he committed. It was canceled, but now BSK has to be pretty careful. The other story here is this Ember is actually having a really nice time mid. Sometimes you do pick this. Sometimes Invoker can be seen as a counter for the or the Ember Spirit mid because you can just dispel the Flame Guard. But that is not 2026 Invoker versus Ember, all right? At this point, you're so much around the Searing Chains that you're going to be fine. Ooh. As yeah, that not too surprising here. The Brewmaster continues to suffer again. This lie in Gyrocopter lane is oppressive.
And that happened very close to their tier 1 tower. The Brewmaster really should not have gone down. Especially when the creep wave is so close by, you can choose to play safe. There was no surprise initiation coming in from Knight. He quite honestly just walked in for his spells. So Amaru Gaming playing just a little bit shaky here, and even the Ursa is in trouble. It should be able to just Earth Shock away.
He's going to be able to bounce out of there. That is one of the nice things. Again, this is a very close range lane in the off lane. So Earth Shock really just gives you a decent amount of separation. As Gardic is going to get poked down once again. He's 0-2-1. So has some level of regen, but not crazy amounts. I think Oscar's doing his job though, right? Ursa is 30 for 10. He's doubling up this Centaur, so even as the mid lane is maybe not going quite as well for Wonder Kid as he would have liked, Ursa is having a great time. I mean, certainly the Gyrocopter is as well. Now a bit of a rotation in, both stunners rotating into the mid lane. Knight on the high ground, so technically can get an Earth Spike out first if we want, but we're going to go on top of Slotums. And here comes Yodomi, so Michael just has to run. Foul play is available, but that's the power of the Flame Guard. Slotums will be able to burn him down, and with 12 seconds, 10 seconds before the power rune, this is just something the Ember Spirit is going to get his meaty little hands on, and that's important. I mean, Invoker doesn't care about getting a rune that much, but Ember very much does. Is actually, we pull the Huskar in, and the Shadow Shaman TP's in as well. Rune's going to be bottom. Arcane Rune, very nice for this Ember. So even though Shadow Shaman comes back, even though we pull the Huskar in, not really going to be able to secure anything, and that just means this Gyrocopter continues to have a fantastic lane for Masters.
At the same time, there's a rotation towards that bot side, BO. They might be able to take out this Brewmaster. There's an Arcane Rune on Saturn. They're just trying to spot him out, but do finally get to see him.
He's surprisingly tanky, right? 3 points there in Earth Stance. He's got a lot of armor, a lot of magic resistance, and especially with Liquid Courage, he's going to sit under the tower. He's going to start to run away, bonus movement speed, and eventually he's going to get taken down. Surprised we actually don't have any rotations, but that's just because we are trading Wisdom Shrine. Slottum is in the mid lane. Cold Touch is not going to be enough, but this should be a trade for Wisdoms. Yodomi is maybe going to get run down by Gardic because he's trying to make that happen. Sunstrike gets the kill. At the end of the day, Pyke gets 1 Wisdom Rune. Looks like Lion actually might be able to get the other one. So Michael's going to go down here. They get 2 Wisdom Runes on the side of a Starbacks. And he will gladly lose the Ancient Apparition for that. Especially now as they're going to try to find Gardic here as well. Man, I think Gardic probably just... Yep, there we go. You got the stun, Searing Chains, and... Now you got Gardic, you got the Shadow Shaman, you double runed, you killed the Brewmaster, you defended your Centaur. Very nice sequence coming out of a Starbacks.
That is quite the collapse for Amaru, just at the back of the Brewmaster dying, and again, no rotations coming out because there was a 3-for-3 confrontation over on that mid side. The Shaman teleported in for the Invoker for that power rune timing. Starbax wrapped around, took out the Brewmaster within the duration of that fire remnant that was planted down towards that mid side, which means the chain sequence just is going in favor of Starbax, somehow able to snipe out the Shrines of Wisdom. They even took a courier out in the midst of all of that, and the Ember Spirit got way too much. Sure, he's not that far up the Invoker in terms of net worth, but the sheer fact that you got both runes, a Shrine of Wisdom runes, means that your Lion is going to hit his Finger of Death timing at a very nice time. He's actually level 6 now, 8 minutes in, BO. So this is possibly going to be a finger kill on the Invoker.
We're gonna have to see. For now, Invoker is playing very defensively. But no, Stampede. Never mind. I'm like, Invoker's playing behind his tower. He knows what's happening, but not a lot to do about that one. Slide a fist on top of him, Searing Chains, and Knight. He will get the kill, and now, of course, he's just able to punch the tower effectively, double damage.
This is BO. The Shaman's level 3. They're losing their tower. They're giving up kills across the map. 2,000 of a net worth advantage. This was supposed to be Jardik running over that lane, but this is Jardik just dying.
Yeah, what exactly was Gardic doing there? Not quite sure. I don't think you're ever going to kill the gyrocopter if he presses his buttons. So I get that you're trying to zone for the tower take, but I don't know, man. I don't think that was a good spot to be in. Not a good death.
Embers coming in, Statin won't be able to find anyone, but overall it's very difficult to take these towers for Amaru Gaming. They don't have, those big tower pushers. No Meteor Hammer for the Invoker because he's just not had a good lane. His tower's now fallen. He's in a vulnerable position against the Lion, who's so incredibly experienced. The Shaman's level 3, so you don't have your Serpent Wards, and until you don't have those Serpent Wards, you won't be able to pressure Starbax the way that you want to. For Starbax, this just means that they're going to have a wonderful time. I don't think that they're going to be pressured for the duration of these next 10 minutes, and it does fall back to the original. I suppose this was always going to be the original plan, that you want your Ursa farmed up, and that may be the one silver lining for Amaru Gaming. The Ursa Warrior is neck and neck even with the Gyrocopter pretty much. He is possibly going to get to that good Battle Fury timing at that 12-13 minute mark, but as I say that,
Stampede trying to go take down this Ursa. Here comes the Searing Chains. Not gonna land on the Ursa for the time being, but you do have the Hex and the Earth Smite. So Michael, he's going north side, but looks like he's gonna give his life away. Angel will be able to get out though, understanding that, you know what? This Ursa, he's a difficult kill. He'll kill the support, take the tower. But if you're looking for some more silver linings, Ursa's having a great game. You talked about that. Only 400 gold behind this Gyrocopter, which is totally playable. Your Invoker, despite dying the once, is having a great time too. He's got his Meteor Hammer now. He's not all that far behind. And this Brewmaster, yeah, you would like him to have more, but he's gonna have the Midas. That's a good comeback tool. And you don't really need a ton of net worth on this Brewmaster. Like, yes, you would love to have an Ags, but you can get a lot of work done even just with the Midas and a Primal Split. So of all the heroes to be down in the dumps of the cores, I mean, certainly the Shadow Shaman's having an awful time, but yeah, Brewmaster, you can still make stuff happen. You're still really good against the Lion and the Ancient Apparition. So silver linings.
And I mean, Invoker, global presence, as long as you have the levels in your orbs, your spells will do damage. The Kaya, of course, from the Meteor Hammer does certainly help you out a lot. But Amaru Gaming, you can get kills, and you had the Primal Split up. So maybe you should be looking for something with this timing. I don't know if the Invoker should be rotating. Maybe he feels like he wants to recover. But the problem that I'm seeing from Amaru is that they're not making moves, and maybe they're not making moves because they feel underconfident with the way that the early game has gone. Maybe they don't feel like they have many moves to make until they have, that life break up or the Shaman's ulti up. But this will mean that Starbax continue the pressure.
Yep, that should be the last of the tier 1s going down. Pyke is going to be able to go and make that happen. And this is one of the pieces of value we do see from this Ancient Apparition. It gives you a little bit of vision. Now, again, you're picking the AA for the Ice Blast and like nothing else. But yeah, 4 points in Ice Vortex, decent range. Means that you can go when you commit to these tower pushes. You can see exactly what's happening. Now this Brewmaster, he's under the tier 2. A bit of an interesting wrap from Yodomi and this line. They have just the two of them. They're a I was going to say they're a very strong kill combo, but I don't get the chance because that is just how quick this Oscar died. You go high ground, Ice Vortex, amps up the amps up the Finger of Death plus Nice Blast, and there is not a single... I don't think there's a single hero in this game that can survive that. Not this early.
The Ice Vortex is a pretty good ability when you are going for these ganks. Angel's very far out. He does have the enrage, should be able to make it out, but 3 pound. Oh man, how did this leave 3 bounty rooms there? That is kind of unacceptable.
That is actually more value than all these kills have been. Like if you think about it, we had a pretty solid net worth lead. It was like 2K, but being pretty stable. And now all of a sudden you give 3 bounty runes over. It's like, okay, we're up to 4K. It does matter a little bit more. The question is, when do we start making moves as Amaru Gaming? Huskar does have the Battle Fury. He's about halfway to a blink. Invoker has his Meteor Hammer. Obviously, this Brewmaster will have won an Ags, but he's still 3,000 gold away from that one. Is it just the blink on the Ursa? What enables Amaru? Yeah.
They're pulling it together. They have the life break up. They have the Shaman ulti up. They have the Ursa's Battle Fury. He doesn't need to join because I think with the Invoker, you do have options, and they might be running right into the one hero you would want to take down. Okay, but he's running away.
Yeah, so you're not actually going to find him.
You might be able to take a tower down though. So you know that's consolation prizes for Amaru Gaming. You open up the map a little bit. You have easier access to the jungle now. Anyone who shows up is going to die, and your Ursa still has a lot of map control, a lot of space where he can safely farm. Sure, no tier 1 tower, but triangle is open. The side jungle is open. You have a bit of your own jungle left. Not in that bad of a spot, but at the end of the day, still a 3,000 to 4,000 net worth disadvantage that Starbacks are in, or that Amaru Gaming have faced up with 15 minutes in. Not the ideal spot.
In fairness, the vast majority of that is, again, in this support duo. The cores are carry to carry is pretty similar. Mid lane to mid lane is pretty similar. You know, again, some of that is this Beastmaster not being quite as farmed, but that'll happen. You know, Beastmaster does not farm nearly as fast, even in fair lanes, as a Centaur does. So they're kind of where they need to be. It's just the support duo is, specifically the Shadow Shaman, is just not in a good spot, and that has, as you mentioned, that has been the trend this tournament. Is hello Gardic. Yeah, don't know what he was doing there. That's not a bit of an awkward path. Now we're gonna go find this Brewmaster. Can get a primal split off, hex up into the follow-up stuns, and not quite. We heard him we heard him pop it, but no, he's just gonna go down. I'm not quite sure what that movement was there, Tultris. You just run up the high ground into a couple of heroes, feed 3 heroes over, and yeah, I'm not quite sure what that was.
Isolated, right? Lack of coordination maybe, but the Huskar not in the best position. I suppose the idea is you want to initiate with your life break. For the Shaman, you want to get your Hex or Shackles off, and for the Brewmaster, you want to get your Primal Spit off. The only problem is, you're running into 3 different points of contact, each of whom individually will be able to hold you down. And now the Ursa, this is painful, a bit painful to watch, but you do have the Blink Dagger. So for Amaru Gaming, I hope the loss of their 3 heroes does not deter them. They can look for a Blink Dagger move with the Ursa. Even without the BKB, they just need to be jumping in first. They need to be the ones to make that commitment. And we do see a lack of commitment coming in from Amaru, who are giving a lot of space away.
I think, I mean, it's not that punishing for the Ursa. Again, we're seeing just how difficult of a kill he is with the Ice Blast. You just pop in rage, you run away. Not that big of a deal. Yeah, it's just these other matchups. This Brewmaster at this point, we talked about how he doesn't need that much net worth. Still a bit of an awkward spot, but now we're going to go find this Gyrocopter, kinda, but he's going to drop the cooldown. And with Knight on top of him, yeah, that is immediately going to be a kill. Sudden Strike! Oh! Oh! Pike. Not going to get taken down. Angel now has to run, spent the Enrage. That could have been so much worse for Amaru.
Surprising that Amaru make that kind of a move. I get it. You have a shaman and an Ursa. One shackle is all you really need. But the Starbacks, they are playing together, have been playing together since the very start of the game, recognizing their limitations. And Amaru Gaming are not giving a Starbacks the due respect. If you want to make a move, go with Jarden. You know, at the very least, bring out your Broom Officer. Use the Primal Split. He's farming on that mid side, and I understand he wants his Scepter. But if your carry wants to make a move, perhaps create a bit of a gap between himself and the opposing carry, gain a bit of advantage, you need to bring more heroes in. And at the 18-minute mark, just the Shaman and Ursa, they are going to be countered out in the moves that they make.
Oh, Finger of Death into the Ice Blast. It will land, and Rage is... Well, actually, yeah. No, Angel... Oh, wait. That works? Okay. Yeah. I always assumed, the more you know, that Essence Ring kind of killed you with Ice Blast because it increases your HP, but you're not going to get the benefit because you can't heal. But apparently it does. So pops the Essence
your
Ring.
Current HP too, I suppose. So that's why, like, I don't know how the exact percentage works, but it's both your current and max HP. So
yes, that's how it. But I had assumed that because you can't gain HP while under the effect of Ice Blast, that it works like, say, an armlet, where if you armlet toggle with an Ice Blast, you just die because your HP goes up, but your current, but it can't go up, so you just toggle it and you die. But apparently you do get the benefit, both of current and max HP. So the more you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has been around for 20 years, but still learning new things. It's very interesting how that dynamic actually works. So, but Husk, oh no, this is.
Yep, there's the Ice Blast. I mean, again, you pick these heroes because they counter the Huskar. He will have some problems. I'm at the point now where, like, I liked the idea. Okay, great. We're gonna flex the Huskar. He should be able to dominate the lane. But we don't have an answer to that question I was asking in the mid game. Like, what does Huskar do out of the laning stage? And for right now, he's got a Glimmer Cape. He's looking at a Force Staff into a Vanguard. My answer really is he's just getting found out and dying and not really adding a lot of value.
Maybe the Huskar is looking to, or plan for Amaru with this Huskar is to be a kind of semi-core at that late game timing. I don't know if that will work out, but Vanguard, Glimmer Cape, Force Staff, all of these utility-based items, it is a greedy way to play the Huskar, especially since you've been farming away in the jungle for God knows how long. And now, finally, Amaru do make a committed move with the entire team.
For now, though, they're going to get on top of this gyrocopter. Meteor's going to land, but not really on top of anyone. And Gardic now all on his lonesome. He's committed, but Ice Blast's not going to land really on anyone, only on these Brewlings. That doesn't matter. And this is just about the optimal fight, you would think. But even still, 2 kills going over to a Starbacks. Everyone else backing up or running away. Yeah, Angel, not even part of this one. So Oscar, yeah, he should just die here on the follow-up as he gets out of the Primal Split form, out of the Brewlings. And that is 3 dead. And that was everyone committed. Ice Blast doesn't land on anyone like you would think.
Might be Roshan.
That was your good fight. And yeah, but you go straight into Roche. Nothing stopping him. 3 dead. Gyrocopter has farmed enough that they should take this reasonably fast.
And now there is a bit of a difference between the cores and on a Starbacks and Amaru Gaming. I mean, it's an 11,000 net with disadvantage. Quite frankly, Amaru Gaming, all they've really found are 3 kills. And I believe all 3 of the kills they've gotten, BO, have been on Yodomi. The rest of his Starbacks have not dropped a single hero. So that is very telling of the state of the game. Amaru Gaming, whether or not they make a move, doesn't really change their fate in any significant way. They're losing these fights whether or not they take a fight. They're losing these pick-off attempts. They're losing map control. They've just lost the Aegis. They lost the first 2 Shrines of Wisdom. I don't recall any moment of this game outside of that top side where the Huskar may have gotten a few kills. Any moment outside of that where anything has gone the way of Amaru.
No, it really hasn't. Again, it just kind of goes down to, as we've been seeing these lanes not necessarily being good enough, is we're going to go on top. Oh, goodbye. The burst damage here on top of this Ursa, if you can't get your Enrage off, is just disgusting. it does feel like one of those games where you kind of need an ag so you can rage off the initiation, but you also need the BKB because otherwise you're just going to get searing changed all over the place, and that's a problem. And if you gotta buy both, well, that is, I don't know that you're going to be able to get to that point. I mean, I understand why he got a basher, to be clear. You're playing for this game where you just don't feel like you have enough damage and control. If you can blink, bash, kill Pike, maybe. But yeah, really, the lack of a BKB is, it feels like it's really hurting this Huskar at this point.
Well, the question is, now the Centaur, you have Blesskid working towards and that Aghanim Scepter, one of the best items with a Gyrocopter who has a lot of farm. I'm not sure if Amaru Gaming are going to be in a point where they can take out the Gyro. They have the Cataclysm, they have the Aghanim Scepter upgrade for the Primal Split, they had the Shaman with the Blink Dagger, but all of these items are designed to fight. In Amaru Gaming, they've not been doing a lot of fighting. They've just been tapping out of the ring at round 1.
Yeah, that really is. And now we're going to go on top of the high ground. Finger of Death. Goodbye to this Huskar. And we are looking at, what is it? 6 stacks of Finger of Death now. 240 bonus damage. This is a Lion that is having a great time. So with Aegis on the Gyrocopter for another 3 minutes, we just go high ground. Really nothing to stop him at this point. And, I think we're at the point here where if you're going to first pick a Huskar, you should ban out the Ancient Apparition. And maybe these experimental drafts out of Amaru Gaming, maybe we go back to what has been working here at Ultras.
I'm not entirely convinced that the Huskar support is the reason that Amaru are in this spot. I think that it's because honestly that mid lane was not working out either. That safe lane that off lane was not working out. I just simply think Starbacks played this game a whole lot better. The timings of that Shrine of Wisdom as well, getting way too much done. And even the team fight coordination has been on point from Starbacks, has been really lackluster from Amaru Gaming. Even if this was a different position 5, I'm not sure if the result of this game was going to be any different.
Yeah, I think the other story is don't pick Shadow Shaman. Have we seen it look good in any? Oh, well, the Ancient Apparition will fall, but Slotums has a BKB, so he's just clicking down Wonder Kids. He's gonna fall, and yeah, you did pop Primal Split. That does mean this Brewmaster is not gonna go down, and you can stun up. Slotums looking for a stun, but nope, that's not gonna happen. Knight goes in, gets the Finger of Death with the stun. That is a dead Brewmaster. That's a dead Ursa. Sorry, I guess Brewmaster did have one of his Brewlings elsewhere, but this Ursa at this point has no game. He's number 2 in net worth, but that is by 5,000 gold, and yeah, it's a struggle to figure out it's a struggle to figure out what the win condition might be for a comeback. I guess it's split pushing, but you don't have the heroes for it.
I don't think an Ursa Warrior is designed for a comeback when you're this far behind. You already lost your first barracks, can't contest Roshan. This Gyrocopter has more damage than the Ursa does, even with the Fury Strikes. The Gyrocopter is packing a Daedalus, and Blesskid has the Aghanim Scepter for that protection. It might have seemed like the Ember Spirit was in a bit of danger, but we never saw the Cataclysm come out simply because there was no setup for the Cataclysm. Amaru Gaming, they're just trying to... It really feels like they're running around into team fights, trying to find a desperate way to initiate or trying to find a desperate way to counter initiate, and they're just simply not being given that space in these fights by Starbacks. In a blink of an eye, Starbacks come in and wipe Amaru out.
Yeah, there's just no clear way to make this. This is the problem with these weird drafts, right? You're talking about support Huskar, position 3 Wind Ranger. The fight becomes very unclear as to what you're supposed to do. Goodbye, Gardic. That's not a thing. He's gonna go in, cut off 30% of the HP of this Gyrocopter, but he's gonna heal right back up to full. And at this point, second set of racks goes down. 19,000 net worth lead for a Starbacks. 27 minutes in. I'm with you, Tultras. They're taking these fights and they're just running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Literally, in the case of the Shadow Shaman. It's just not clear exactly what they're supposed to do, how the fight is supposed to happen. And again, that's the issue with these weird drafts. I mean, what does a position 4 or a position 5 Huskar do 28 minutes into a game?
I think this game might be over at this point. Sure, you do have one lost barracks. You are going to make your last stand, but now Bleskid has a Crimson Guard. Right now, I don't even know the Oscar can even take out these supports. I think Starbacks are in a position where they can win these fights 3v5 or even 4v5. It'll take a miracle, surely, and unfortunately for the side of Amaru Gaming, they haven't even found anything close to a miracle. They haven't been able to do anything in this game, if I'm being frank, which is again surprising. We've seen Amaru Gaming start off really strong, but also, to be fair, yesterday they also started off a bit weak, right? Lost the first game, but did find that comeback.
Yeah, Primal Split's gonna go down and is doing absolutely nothing. They're gonna go find. No, they're not. Ancient Apparition put back into the card here. 2 dead, make it 3 eventually. Adomi is still alive. Now, eventually, this Brewmaster is gonna be able to take him down. But nice job there, BSK. You know, sometimes we question who you need to heal with or who you need to put into the card as a Centaur. Because you're like, I'm gonna save the support, and then the core dies. But they're 20,000 net worth ahead, and making sure you got the Ice Blast off made sure that they got the second kill. And you know, at the very least, they did kill Yodomi. At the end of the day, we are seeing the power of this Brewmaster into the supports. But
Yodomi is the only one they've been able to kill 30 minutes in. You take a look at that kill feed, the 5 kills that Amaru have are just on Yodomi. So they were able to shut down the Ancient Apparition. I mean, they did achieve that objective when they set out to do that, but they have not killed anyone else in this entire game. So, and that's with that global Sunstrike. That's with the Cataclysm. And I don't think I've seen a single Cataclysm come out. Like, not land, but I don't think I've seen one in a team fight.
Oh, hello. There's going to be the stun. Ice Blast as well. And then certainly there is no Primal Split. So this is a eventually dead Brewmaster. It's a slow and insidious death. And then a fast one. As Knight is going to go and hit the finger of death.
Roshan is going to be up in about 2 minutes. Maybe you contest Roshan. You can do it with the Primal Split. There's a 6,000 difference between the Gyrocopter and the Ursa Warrior, though. And Pike, I believe, doesn't have the Butterfly, is actually going for it. He went back for the BKB, so he has a 9-second BKB. Now your control from your Invoker, your Shaman, doesn't do anything. And it's a question of whether or not Starbacks even feel like they need Roshan, or if they're just going to be running down that top side.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's always nice to have Roshan, right? But with a 23,000 net worth lead, Ursa is in the pit, but no, he's gonna back out of here. Sees that Roche is not ready for 90 seconds anyways. And now with this smoke, Gyrocopter is kind of cool. So Gyrocopter is showing topside. They're gonna assume that everyone's behind him, but he actually TP'd in. They're just gonna go try to kill off this Ursa. Nice smoke, good blink from Angel though. And he's gonna be able to get on out of here. Now a bit of a counter smoke from Amaru Gaming. They are massively far behind, but they can get some good pickoffs. Maybe some sort of fight is possible. Goes in, Primal Split onto Yodomi, and this should be eventually, never mind. Nope, Slatims blows up the Shadow Shaman, and still Yodomi will die at the very end. Didn't get his Ice Blast off, but now it's 1 for 2. The supports are dead, and Pike, was tossed up in the air, but that's the fun part. It's like, yeah, you can remove 24,000 net worth. And that is, that's one way to put about it. You can lift up the Gyrocopter in the sky. He's at 24,000 net worth. And then the game is technically even.
It's just awkward. There should be a plan B. There should be, okay, so we've been taking these fights. They haven't been going the way that we want. How do we adjust for these fights? We don't see the adjustment. We see Amaru Gaming going all in for that Ancient Apparition, and they do find him. They do find Yodomi. And there are different ways to go about it. Sometimes they manage to turn the Gyrocopter up in the air. Sometimes they manage to dish out a bit of damage towards the Gyrocopter. But the end result will always be the same.
Yep, now going on top of Wonder Kid, and Slatims just clicking him down. Goodbye. They did get the line, and it is a stun on his Slatims, but yeah, he's got a BKB. TP on out of there. Actually, I think Angel he was fine. He was able to go and just get out of there without spending it. But even still, now we're going into the Roche pit without an Invoker. Invoker is one of your key contest tools. And I mean, Pike is massive. You look at him, he's got a BKB, Daedalus, Manta, Hurricane Pike. He's pretty much slotted. But Gardic, he wants to make a hero move, goes in, they see him. You always put a sentry outside the Roche pit. Look, you're 23,000 net worth behind. Respect. I'm fine with that, but yeah, clearly not working out.
And with the banner up, I feel like this is going to be the last push of the game. Unless Amaru Gaming are able to pull off something that they haven't been able to pull off in the past 33 minutes. There's now a BKB on Blesskid. Quite honestly, if Starblast can pop all of their BKBs and take Mega Creeps anyway. All they have to do is force out the Glyph first. So, for Amaru Gaming, they should already be thinking about how to approach things differently in that game number 2.
Yep. I think it's just don't pick the Shadow Shaman. Don't flex a Huskar to 5. Those are not. I don't think it's all that difficult. I know you said it might not be on this pick right on the Huskar 5. Invoker generally is gonna not necessarily struggle, but he's gonna lose a little bit. In most lanes, you don't have a ton of damage until you start to get higher levels. You really are on the Sunstrike add-ins. And as we're seeing, I mean, there's value to the Lion. There's value to this Ancient Apparition as the game goes later. We're just not seeing Huskar can't do anything. Now, is it because the lead is 23,000? Maybe a little bit, but yeah, Huskar goes in, pops the inner fire, goodbye. What are you supposed to do? I mean, even in losing games, a lot of supports will have value. You can drop a stun, you can do something. As we're going to see Sunstrike, Cataclysm go down, add no value, just all going to miss. Onto the backside, Wonder Kid just jumped on top of, can't do anything to this BKB Ember Spirit. And this game is done, dusted. Yeah, Angel is going to tap out of here, nothing to do. They just led from pole to pole.
This is, or rather should be, a wake-up call to Amaru Gaming. Sure, they had a weak start yesterday against Legion Gaming South America, but this first game was really not how you want to start off a series. It is now at the risk of elimination, as it was yesterday. But if Starbacks are, in my opinion, are a lot stronger of a team compared to Legion Gaming. All of their players are perhaps may not be as flashy, but a bit comparable to some of the stronger players out here in this tournament. Blesskid on his Centaur is to be respected. Slatim is a playmaker on that mid lane role, and if you're flexing this hard, you need to have a backup plan. You can't go all in just to be able to counter out this Ancient Apparition and not get anything done across the whole map. Losing both Shrines of Wisdom, losing all 3 lanes, it was just, in my opinion, a very poor showing from Amaru.
Yeah, again, I go back to the draft. I think this is... Gyro is great into a Shadow Shaman. We've already seen that over the course of this tournament. In general, I don't think Shadow Shaman is it has not been impressing me. I keep talking about it. Huskar 5 clearly didn't work. So I think that it's very simple. Have a more stable draft. Don't draft yourself into a corner. Just pick something where it's clear what every hero does. You know, you got the body in front, you got the damage, you got control, support can do something. And maybe that means Amaru is going to be able to win game number 2. But for now, it's a bit of a break. And when we're back, game number 2. Can Amaru right the ship? It's going to be just straight on into the next series. Well, welcome back here. It's a game number 2 between Amaru Gaming and Starbucks. Game 1, we saw Position 5 Huskar. We saw a Shadow Shaman that did absolutely nothing. And that's my, if I was a little kid on Santa's Lap for Christmas here at Ultras, that's what I want to ask for. Just don't do that. Pick the stuff that's good. You don't need to go into the lab and write the next thesis. You're fine. Just copy someone else.
And I mean, we saw the consequences of what can happen when you flex too hard, right? And that was a consequence that BTC faced up with when in their series against the Starbacks, picking up the Queen of Pain on that safe lane role, having that mid lane invoker. Did not work out for them, did not work out for Amaru Gaming, and now is Starbacks one game away from guaranteeing themselves third place position. Amaru Gaming being the favorites, they I really do hope they have found those adjustments, and it does seem like they have. Bio, they've essentially banned out that Huskar.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? If you don't want to go for it, if you think you're going to get countered, just ban it out. You could also ban the Ancient Apparition and pick it for yourself. But yeah, for now, we're going to get rid of that one. Bat Rider is going to be the response, which is, I think, on average, a stronger pick. Huskar can break games, but it can also, as we see, break your own game. So we're just going to pick the Bat. It builds auras. It's always going to have value. It's a good laner. Even if it's not a good lane, you can go back into the jungle. Much more stable.
Interestingly, yesterday, you know, you were covering Amaru Gaming versus Legion Gaming. Amaru lost that first game 35 minutes in, and then the second game, they started off the pick with the Bat Rider. So this is, you know, already we're seeing quite a few games with history repeating itself, even in the series that Starbacks played yesterday. So let's see what this game will have in store. And the bigger question, which role the Bat Rider will be playing in. I think in this tournament, Bat Rider has been exclusively an offlane hero, but does offer the flex potential of a good support position too.
Yeah, I don't think this is a... Yes, you can flex Bat to 4 or 5, but from the games I've been seeing in this patch, it is a very, like, it has to be a really bad Bat game to flex it to 5. And we've seen games where it's like a Shadow Demon plus Nabadan, and you're still not flexing it. So I'm not sure how bad of a game it actually has to be, because the value is not even in the lasso. It is, but it's the damage you do in fights. It's the farming. It's the auras you can buy. It's kind of that Underlord idea of, I'm just going to build auras. I'm going to be tanky. I'm going to be in there. I'm going to apply damage by existing. You know, I have some control. Speaking about Underlord, though, I think this is probably something that's very worth banning for a Starbacks. It's either the Underlord or the Centaur that you want to get rid of with this final ban of the second phase, assuming you're looking at a Wind Ranger core. But instead they say, you know what? Nope, we really don't like the Brewmaster. The Dispel into the Wind Ranger is really problematic. We'll pick the Centaur for ourselves, and all right. Especially because for some strange reason, Amaru... Oh, no, it's actually not all that strange, because Bat Rider's likely the offlane, so never mind. I was going to say, because the Mars was banned out by Amaru, which is another, again, very good hero into the Wind Ranger. And now you're in this situation where you can't pick Centaur. It's picked. Underlord probably not great because you already have the Bat Rider. You know, Mars is banned. So now you're just forced to deal with this carry Wind Ranger. You don't... nothing really gets you that immediate counter pick.
They did make sure to ban out that Tusk, so Wind Ranger is not going to have that cutting edge support beside her. There are obviously a few more supports left that are good against that Bat Rider. You can pick up that Willow or that Disruptor, or rather, not just the Willow. Disruptor's banned out, but they also pick up the Hoodwink. Centaur plus Hoodwink is going to be a great combo that's not going to be available for Starbacks, but I do think Starbacks are in a good spot. At the same time, you know, even though the Bat Rider, the lasso is not the, you know, I wouldn't say the primary use of the Bat Rider, the lasso's still good against the Wind Ranger if you can drag her out. And a lot of the counters to the lasso are banned. The Shadow Demon, the Disruptor, the Tusk, those really reliable saves are not available. If Starbacks do have the option for that Ringmaster, though, I do think that they should consider it. It has been a successful hero in this series so far.
It has. They're just going to go with the Undying, though. for now. Actually, you were talking about a Starbucks, but we're going to see an Undying on the other side. That is really interesting, actually. Undying is good into the Centaur. You have all this minus strength against a strength hero. The Wind Ranger is a pretty solid tombstone hitter. And it means, yeah, there we go. You're talking about the Ringmaster's going to go straight into a Starbucks, as you were talking about. But yeah, Undying is, you're really about your tombstone. Vast majority of the game. Wind Ranger builds a Maelstrom, builds a Mjolnir, builds a Dragonlance. Very, very good at just taking the tombstone down.
Yeah. At the same time, Centaur and Ringmaster are the heroes that would like to hit that tombstone. So I would prefer to see another hero coming out for a Starbucks that can help the Wind Ranger take out that tombstone. And you do have certain spells from Amaru to hold down the Wind Ranger as she's trying to take a tombstone down, like the Hoodwink and the Batrider. But this Bane does help them indirectly with that objective by being able to nightmare the Hoodwink or the Batrider, or even just someone else, allow the Wind Ranger such a little bit more of a buffer for that. Other than that, Nightmare is also a good spell to hold back that Flesh Golem with, to hold back the Batrider with. That is certainly an ability, but I wonder if they're posturing towards an Invoker for Starbucks themselves, because that Sunstrike combo, again, it's really good, and you have the Ringmaster with that Wheel of Wonder that makes a Cataclysm also a pretty viable combo.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I really don't like what I'm seeing out of, or I should say, I really like what I'm seeing out of a Starbucks. Amaru Gaming certainly does have room to stabilize. You know, talked about maybe the Invoker. Actually, you were talking about a Starbucks, but the Bane looks really good this game. Ringmaster is fantastic into all these heroes. Centaur's gonna have a good time. Wind Ranger might get run down by the bat, but otherwise should be fine. So we're gonna go for a. I remain unconvinced, man.
You do have to consider Amaru Gaming did bring out that Luna in the first game against X5 Gaming in the upper brackets. It didn't look all that good then, but they did manage to win with it. So we'll have to see. I'll give the Luna the benefit of the doubt from my end.
In fairness, in that game, it wasn't the Luna's fault that it didn't look great. Luna was doing what Luna had to do, and it was the rest of the team was kind of having some other bad lanes, and Luna actually carried the game. Luna brought the game back, was able to go and make that happen. But you have Fiend's Grip for the Luna. Centaur is absolutely going to buy Pipe Crimson. Wind Ranger can click him down. If Luna, like straight up here, if we look at their potential, I'm really not convinced. The thing though is that Luna farm is very fast. So if you can hit your timings fast enough, if you can make sure that you say get to an MKB very quickly, you get your Butterfly up, you get like probably a Lincoln's this game just because the Bane is a big problem, but you get to 4 items, maybe an item before anyone else in the game, and you have enough stuff behind you. Undying is a good lane bully, lane bodyguard, Batrider, again, is going to build some of these auras. I can see a world where Luna is out of control, even though I technically don't like how the Luna matches up into these heroes just based off potential. But again, the timing, I can see a world where the timing means that doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, and Amaru Gaming, they must have thought about this, because this Luna pick is exactly into the same kind of picks that X5 brought out, the Centaur and the Wind Ranger. But like you mentioned, there's the Bane on the other side. So there's the Fiend's Grip as well as the Nightmare. So how the Luna is going to play against that Bane, that is definitely going to be key. Not to mention, you have that Ringmasters, you have that insane magic resistance coming out with the Escape Axe. So the Eclipse is also not going to be that strong of spell, particularly in that early to mid game. So Amaru Gaming, they need a strong mid laner. They need Wonder Kid to be making plays this tournament, not play from behind. I think they really need someone that can steamroll the engine from the very get-go.
It's just going to be a Void Spirit, right? I think that is really going to be the play. He could play as Invoker again, but he doesn't have crazy. You got Batrider, you got Hoodwink, that's okay. But I think you're just looking at, no, okay, it's going to be a tiny. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad, but again, it's the magic resistance that's coming out from this Ringmaster. You're relying on the fact that you're going to be able to initiate with the Avalanche toss. in a way that the Ringmaster can't come up with a save. And not to mention that invulnerability period with the Bane too. We're at this stage of the tournament where you'll have a Bane player that is going to be able to cast his Nightmare in a way that can save his allies. So the Tiny, he's all into towards that Avalanche toss. He has no other use case. Either that's a set up or to burst someone down, it's going to be the Avalanche toss. And Starbacks have the means to prevent that.
Yeah, they do. And certainly as this game goes later, you're gonna have Centaur, not only the pipe, but also being able to go and get a cart and save from some of that. So now we're looking for a mid laner from a Starbacks. It's gonna be the Slardar. That is a pretty good lane matchup into this. 0 low armor Tiny. You're gonna be in the middle of the lane the entire time. You're in the river. Slatums loves that. I would love this to go to game 3, and I think Amaru, I put a lot of credit in how good they are. I think they're very solid, but this feels like a 2-0, man. I really prefer this draft out of a Starbacks.
Yeah, I would happen to agree with you. The mid lane matchup, once again, going to be very one-sided in favor of the Slardar. Sure, you have that Avalanche toss, but where the Tiny is favored is against matchups that are squishy, against the vast majority of mid lane heroes out there, like the Spirits, like the Queen of Pain, like the Invoker. In this case, with the HP regen inside of the river, like you talked about, Tiny is not going to have that burst potential, not going to be able to keep that Slardar low. Even if they come up with rotations, there's not exactly great rotators on their side. Sure, you have that Hoodwink, but outside of that, unless you're able to land that Bushwhack against that insane movement speed the Slardar naturally has because he's in the river, it feels like Amaru are kind of boxed into a corner, and I feel like this is going to be the exact same kind of game that they had faced up against X5. In that series, X5 brought out a Viper on that mid side. So they did have to, Amaru Gaming did have to find that comeback. Whether or not they can do that with additional saves coming out from his Starbacks, with additional tempo coming out from his Starbacks, that's something yet to be seen, but I do not favor the early to mid game at all for Amaru. And that early to mid game is something that they have already shown that they struggle with against the Starbacks. Last game, post Shrines of Wisdom, coordination was lackluster. They were just running around, feeding kills. You can't have that scenario. I know that the Luna is a phenomenal, Angel is a phenomenal player, has found the comeback for Starback or for Amaru Gaming time and time again. But in a scenario where you're super behind, I am not sure if he can get it done this game.
Yeah, I think if this game goes late enough, I think if you say are maybe 3,000 gold down by 20 minutes, I think it's possible. I think it's playable. This Luna has looked pretty good. Is actually, what is this Luna going from a facet perspective? Has got Moonstorm again, so it's a lot of damage. As this game goes later, you pop level 3 Eclipse, you start to drop some beams on people. The Luna does start to just significantly increase their damage. We've seen her just run through fights. But again, you're gonna have a Crimson. There's gonna be a pipe. Slardar gets very tanky with his Ags. Wind Ranger doesn't really care all that much. Eventually, there's gonna be an MKB, but for the most of this, Wind Ranger doesn't care. It feels like, again, the cost of execution, how easy this draft is to play, is very much just in favor of the Starbacks. So for now, horn will sound. A bit of a fight brewing in the middle of things here. Gardeck's going to go be able to get himself a bounty rune, but seems like he might just go down. Hoof stomp into the dagger, blood grenade, and Gardeck continues to try to run. Good bushwhack, and is he? Yeah, okay. They don't want to go up the high ground. At least the Slardar doesn't wants to get back into lane. So Gardeck, he will survive. Steals a bounty rune right out of the face of everyone else. But of course, Yudomi, nice entry in the middle of the map, will be able to go get himself an Obs Ward as well. So a little bit of gold going into the pocket of this Bane as we go to lane.
At the very least, I suppose the laning phase for this Luna should be good. You're playing an Undying into a Centaur. He should be able to make sure that Blesskid keeps his distance and allow Angel, effectively allow Angel to continue his farm. At the same time, you do have that Ringmaster, so the more HP the Undying takes away from the Centaur, the more damage that Impalement Arts is actually going to deal. So it is a bit of a double-edged sword as to how low you want to keep the Centaur.
Yeah. For now, though, are gonna be fine. Gardic runs forward, and on the one hand, you talk about this centaur, how annoying it is with this with the undying into him. On the other hand, this is a strength support into impalement arts, and the max as more you talk about, like as your HP gets a little higher on the decay, that just means the dagger does more damage. So yeah, this is very much a matchup that can go both ways, which is nice as an offlaner to see an offlane that is not just going to be absolutely bullied for the next 7 minutes and just have to be sad about it. I'll take that. The very few lanes.
Jordan?
Actually, we're gonna go on top of Gardic, but again, you have the Lucent Beam. It's a mini stun, lasts 3/4 of a second, but it's enough to break these kind of chain goes that the Knight and BSK are gonna want to try to put together.
I wonder if the Tombstone is ever going to be able to get them some kills. The slow is nice, the zombies are nice, but this doesn't really feel like a lane where you're going to be able to get that done. The Lucent Beam, sure, you have that additional damage coming out on top of that decay. You'll always have that Tame the Beasts coming in from that Ring Master, which means that Gardic can't actually go that far deep. So it all in all, I think this is probably just going to be a lane which comes out as even between both of these two sides.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an offlaner, I know I got a little bit of bias here, but if you're in the pro meta, if you're playing an offlane and you kind of go even against the safe lane, that is good news for you, especially as the centaur that just needs to be able to survive the early part of the laning stage so he can get himself into the Helm Dom and start to be able to kick the safe laner out of the lane and start to go take the map over and get yourself into these auras. The fact that it is probably just going to go even is really good news for the centaur, especially because this is a Luna that wants to just hard farm everything. So if you can get your Helm Dom faster, it means the Luna has to go to the jungle faster, you know, all of that. Meanwhile, bottom side, good shackles from Pyke, but not quite enough damage just yet to kill anyone. And mid lane is going actually surprisingly well, I think, for this Tiny early on. Yes, you do have, what is that, 92 damage, so you do have a bit of a damage benefit. But we're not quite at the point where, actually, I'm a little surprised we're not seeing Slotums play a little bit more aggressively here. I think the value of Crush plus Bash it's worth a lot of damage into this 0 armor Tiny. At the very least, you know, just forcing the mana out, so I don't have that later on, but it's actually been going pretty well for Wonderkid.
Yeah, it is a bit surprising. It's also a bit surprising with his skill build. I would actually imagine that Slardar should have actually just, you know, forgone the Guardian Sprint, at least for the earlier levels, just having more damage coming out from the Bash of the Deep. Like you mentioned, Wonderkid has 0 armor. So that those extra skill points in Bash of the Deep, that 35, it's more than 100% damage increase from 35 at that level 1 mark to 90 at that level 2 mark, which would deal a lot of damage to Wonderkid and allow Slatum to pressure the Tiny just a little bit better. But the fact that the Tiny is having a good lane is good news for Amaru. As I say that, Pyke, he is able to draw first blood, and for Oscar, you know, this is a difficult lane because he can't go in. He can't play aggressive. You have that Nightmare. It's just an instant disengagement tool for Starbacks.
Yeah, I mean, that's why people pick Bane. Long and short of it, Bane is very much this hero that is kind of the ultimate lane bodyguard. I know we talked about the Undying, we've talked about the Clockwork, but Bane is, you can't do it. It's very, very hard to have any effective pressure into the Bane. Again, you talked about the Nightmare, you talked about the Brain Sap that does so much pure damage and heals. It just means that Pyke's gonna have a great time, and we've seen what Pyke can do on this Wind Ranger just in general when he has a bit of a free lane, especially because, okay, I thought the Bane was stacking for him, just no, just getting some vision. But now again, even still, as you talk about it, Pyke having a great time. Yeah, the question for me is when he decides to go through the portal, because our Wind Ranger is very much a hero that does really love those portal rotations. And if you're into a Luna, I mean, Luna is not all that tanky early, not super mobile, but for now, nice shackles on top of Oscar, just forcing him back. Yeah, at what point does Pyke decide, you know what, I got the lane shoved in enough, let's try to see if we can kill this Luna?
I think it will eventually happen, particularly as he does get his focus fire in, but it's hard to rotate into the Luna because of that Undying there. I think if you're going to be playing into that Tombstone, you need to bring additional numbers in. But over on that mid side, speaking of Tombstone, it is out.
Yadomi tries to run away from the zombies. We'll be able to click it down. And yeah, Yadomi, this tanky Bane is going to be totally fine. So Bane gets out, Tombstone down, and functionally the Tombstone is this Undying's ultimate. So he spends a pretty important spell early on. Does keep his Tiny safe. So there is that. Just make sure that nothing too crazy happens, but
also find a nice D-ward on that mid side. Gardic is going to be able to D-ward that Observer, should give them a little bit more control over those power runes, but Luna is alone. Now they won't be able to get on top of her, but Starmax are getting more out of this early laning phase. A 2,000 net worth advantage. Not too significant considering your cores are still doing well, but your Batrider is really not having a good time. 20 CS on him, he should be able to recover simply because he can farm a lot faster than the opposing Centaur. But at the very least, Amaru Gaming this time around will be able to secure their own Shrine of Wisdom, so they will have the sharpshooter when they need it.
And this is one of those opportunities. You talk about, can the Centaur hold his space? How fast is he going to farm? This is one of those times, and Pyke's going to take advantage of it now. But when Undying showed mid, and when the Luna was shoved up a little bit, that was one of those times that I really would have liked to see Pyke just run through the portal, try to kill off this Luna. He's going to try to make it happen now on his level 6 timing. They do have vision, they do have detect, but Yadomi, Undying's just going to be able to, he's going to get taken out. Of course, you do have the Ceaseless Dirt, so he's going to TP right back. But now they're going to try to find Angel, and they actually get him. Okay.
Oh,
they had a ward. I mean, there's this hiker on ward set up right outside of the Twin Gate that should have seen the Wind Ranger, but I guess Angel thought he was close. He was far enough away to not really worry about it. Nice move from Pyke.
Yeah, and I was just about to point out that ward. That is a big error in judgment. You lose your tier 1 tower. I suppose you were always going to lose the tower because you lost that Undying, with the Ceaseless Dirge brought him back up, and now Undying's just dead again.
Yep. Yep. Undying is sometimes it's a hero that is actually just a dying hero, which never feels particularly good. And now he's stuck here level 4. It's 8.5 minutes in. You're not a hero that farms particularly well. Decay helps, but you're not that great of a comeback hero. And again, the big story here is Pyke is having a marvelous time. 4.2k net worth. He's able to soak his own jungle. Every time Wind runs down, Focus Fire's down. If he wants to, he can try to rotate through the portal. But that actually is kind of the downside, if you think about it, of taking this tier 1 tower. No one's going to be there around the gate anymore. So these gate rotations just not as possible, because unfortunately, they did too good of a job in the lane.
It is a bit ironic how that actually turns out. How the taking down the opposing tier 1 tower on your off lane actually makes it safer for the opposing safe laner to farm. At the same time, the mid lane between both of these two matchups was always going to be a battle of the Blink Dagger timings. And Slardar is a lot closer to his Blink Dagger compared to Wonderkid. I suppose that was always going to be the case because the Slardar has a natural advantage in the lane. But just because of the fact that Amaru Gaming's safe side lanes have not gone as well, puts pressure on Wonderkid to be able to acquire his Blink Dagger faster and open up the map for his team, which may or may not be possible.
And for now, Vlada's going to be careful. He eats a couple spells, but that's going to be fine. And you talk about these battle of the Blink Dagger timings. Slardar is a hero that can do more without a blink than Tiny can. All right, you don't... Ooh, we're looking for the crush into the Wheel of Wonder. Nice job, but it's still a very tanky Tiny. They're going to start to hit him. Pops the Avalanche. And, okay, he should die here, yeah, with a secondary crush. And now that's a free Tombstone. Just making sure that Slatims gets that. A cool 150 gold on top of this Tiny kill. And Wind Ranger shows up mid. So this should be a dead tower, and it's crazy because of how bad game number 1 went for Amaru Gaming. But this game 2, it might actually, through the first 10 minutes, it might feel worse.
Yeah, at least last game, Amaru Gaming were getting something done on their safe lane. This time around, they're just losing towers, and the Starbacks, they're playing with the timing so well. The catapult wave comes out, they make a play, take out the opposing mid laner, put pressure on that tower. Topside Blesskid, complete free farm for the Centaur in a lane against an Undying who, quite frankly, isn't doing anything.
No, No, he's not. Now Slaughter's has to be careful. Tries to run away. Knight looking for the save. Good shackle, just find a little bit of space. And now, oh, that's Corrosive Haze on top of Wonder Kid. He does not have a lot of armor. And oh, gotta be careful. They're so low, but they play on the edge so well. Pike gets the shackle. That's gonna be another kill. And that is the net worth lead in a nutshell. If Wind Ranger is not quite as far ahead as he is, he probably dies there. If Slardar is not as far ahead as he is, he probably dies there. But a 5,000 net worth lead, the levels that they have as well, it's a 4-level lead at 11 minutes in. That allows them to play on the margins that they were able to find.
And if Amaru Gaming are just a little bit more patient, they will get the kills they're looking for. Hoodwink is level 5. Just wait for the Sharpshooter, perhaps the highest magical damage ability in the game with 600 damage. But they are trying to force the issue against a Slardar who has 1200 H, or rather 1400 HP, 1500 with the power treads on his strength. So much HP regen. You have the Ringmaster that can also provide him with that max HP or repositioning. It's Amaru Gaming once again being very shaky.
Yeah, they're gonna go on top of this Luna now, and Luna is dead. Tombstone on the high ground is a difficult prospect, so they're not gonna maybe go on top of Gardic, but yeah. And this move, it was just a read. They knew the Luna was probably playing around there, so we see the sentry go down, saying clearly there's a ward. Clearly, a Starback saw something that showed them where the Luna was. There's no ward. They just ran through. They saw the Luna was there, and they took her down. And if Luna's not farming, and all 3 cores of a Starbacks are top 3 net worth, not only are you in this situation where the game is rough, but this eventual win condition of Luna scaling to the point where she's untouchable, it just the timing falls further and further back.
And I'm not sure if Amaru Gaming will be in a position at that 20 to 25 minute mark where they can spot out that light at the end of the tunnel. Wind Rain Pike is just super farmed ahead, or rather super far ahead, and this isn't even the biggest power spike for that Wind Ranger. Once you get to that Mjolnir, that is truly when Pike's farming capacity is going to accelerate. And you know, Blessed Kid's having a wonderful time. The Centaur's been free farming too, so he'll have that workhorse. He will have those auras. He will have the protection for Pike when they eventually need it against Amaru Gaming. Sure, Slardar is going to start scaling off, but if Starbacks with the way that they're playing, when that starts to happen, the rest of their 2 cores are going to be in a condition where they can pick up the pace for Starbacks.
Yeah, as we're just gonna go on top of this Hoodwink. Goodbye the burst damage. Even if you're in the trees, Mistwood's Wayfarer is not quite enough. So now 5,000 net worth lead, 10 minutes, or excuse me, 10 kills in 14 minutes. And, you know, at the very least, Gardic was able to get himself a Wisdom Shrine. So there is that going for you. Actually, Starbacks have been so far forward on the map, farming so aggressively, that it's 14.5 minutes. They still haven't taken their Wisdom Shrine. That is something that if there was any way that Amaru could get on the map, they might try to steal, but look at this line of where they're allowed to be, and it is so deep, so far away from even just the river, that a bit of a pipe dream here, Toltris.
They do. Oh man, they don't even have the Blink Dagger up for Wonder Kid. He's still about 400 gold away from that. That's the only way they make some plays here. I don't think the Batrider is in the capacity, even though he does have the Boots of Bearing up, to be able to close that gap, because the Bane is just such a good pick. We haven't even seen Knight forced to use his escape act to save anyone. Starbacks just simply have not been put in that position, and oh no, Angel too far out.
Yep, he's gonna get taken down. Pops the moon shield, but yeah, no, he's dead. So now it's a 6,000 net worth lead. They're gonna find this Batrider. Yudomi tries to run. Oscar would love to be able to go get a lasso, at least get something, but instead he shows up, focus fired, crushed down, dead. Okay. They're going to try to find Gardic as well. They look just further the chase into the crush, looking for a bash maybe. Slaughter doesn't care. He's just looking for the next kill. He's going back to the mid lane to farm. He knows Pike has that. And now, I mean, this game feels very difficult to find a solution to.
They have a Blink Dagger. So they do have a possible solution, but this needs to work.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Yeah, we're gonna go and find this hoodwink. I don't know if they should be able to kill him off. Hoof stomp. Oh, a little bit awkward. There's the crush. Okay.
Dire's top tower
And this is just sometimes when you pick a draft that is minimal stuns. You have Bat Rider, Lasso, and the Tiny, versus a draft that has just all the stuns in the world and you fall behind. This just happened. It's one hero, two heroes with a kill squad. Slotham's now. He's got, I mean, I don't know when exactly when he got this blink, but it was very early. He's going to have a BKB before 20 minutes with his shard. So he's farming relatively nicely. All of a sudden, your burst is just that much higher because Corrosive Haze gets applied before the stun, which just feels awesome.
They did find Pyke though, and actually Luna got the kill. 700 gold, an unstoppable streak going for the Luna. That's the entire Manta style built up. So for Amaru, they got the best potential kill on the best possible hero on their lineup. So I'm not saying that's going to be the comeback, but it does give them some more options. Luna suddenly propels herself to the third place position in as far as the net worth goes, and his Starbacks get punished for playing on the opposite side of the map.
It's Pyke punish for being a little bit too far forward. He is very strong, but yeah, you gotta be a little bit careful with where you're playing. You can still die if the entire team jumps on top of you. And if your team is going to be playing in the enemy jungle, which I like, again, you're playing very aggressively here. You are doing what you can to constrict the map. You do have to keep that in mind. You do have to maybe play a little bit further back yourself just to make sure you're not the dangling apple that can go get taken down. So now Pyke says, look, okay, you know what? If they're going to collapse on top of me, I'm just going to play with my team. I'm going to go help them maybe kill off this Bat Rider who pops the lasso onto Slotham's and takes about half HP, but doesn't really matter because Slotham's is in the river. Gets a lot of regen off of that one. And now the tier 2 is gone. So Pyke joins the team. And the the saving grace of maybe we're going to kill Pyke once. As long as the team is together, you're not getting Pyke.
And they have an additional initiation now to contest with. Is Starbacks. Blesskid picks up the Blink Dagger, so now you have two very tanky heroes able to jump on that front line. And alongside of that Pipe of Insight, it makes it so that Amaru Gaming's magical damage is simply not enough. Now they need to have a Luna farmed up, but base is going to be taken away, especially with this Aegis that they are looking to contest. But this could go horribly wrong for Amaru as they're trying to go in for it.
Yep, for now. Oh, here comes Wonder Kid Avalanche. Toss tries to burst the Roche down. Not going to happen. There we go. Roshan Aegis on top of Pyke. And now Eclipse, a lot of damage on top of Slotham's, but it's a good shackle. Pyke gets a ton of damage into Gartic. He's not going to go down just yet. And now the Bat Rider trying to run over this. Yeah, the Bane will fall, even with the box on top of him, but now it's going to start to fall apart. Both supports. Sorry, Bat Rider's a core, but at the end of the day, Undying Bat Rider will fall. They get the Aegis. Slotham survives, and that is his BKB. You get the Aegis on top of Pyke, and if Slotham's is Pyke is already a very difficult kill. Now he's got the Aegis. Now he's pretty much got the Hurricane Pyke. It's not that far away, especially with this this ancient stack they're going to clear. That fight is already hard, and now we're approaching our BKB timings.
And that's the additional utility. I've always considered the Tiny, this version of a Tiny, to be a bit weaker than the previous version that teams would play with. This version of a Tiny after the Blink Dagger builds additional utility in the form of that Yule Scepter. But on the other hand, you have a Slaughter. Slatam is building up that BKB. So the Yule Scepter versus BKB, that in my opinion is there's a clear favorite of who's going to be coming out with more impact with that. And is Starbacks with this Aegis only have 2 tier 2 towers to take. They don't need to go high ground right now. They just need to deal with those 2 tier 2 towers. Maybe even use this Aegis to get kills across the map. They can go high ground once they have the BKB up for the Wind Ranger, which is going to come after possibly the Hurricane Pyke, if he feels he needs it. Because quite frankly, as Starbacks with this many saves, Pyke doesn't even seem like he's in trouble in those team fights, because Amaru Gaming, after expending their lasso, after expending the Avalanche Toss, the Eclipse, the Sharpshooter, everything, all they really seem to be able to find are just these supports, Yodomi and that Ringmaster.
Yeah, I mean, at least that's something. It's better than nothing, but you gotta find some way to take down Pyke. You gotta find some way to get on top of this Slardar, but instead Slardar's the one on top of the Luna. Wheel of Wonder, Angel's at half HP, but oh, nice toss back, but he's still Fiend's Grip, and Slardar's still on top of him. Windrunner's not here just yet. Now he's going to start to move in. There's going to be the hoof stomp, secondary stun. Slotums will die. That's a big kill. But Gardic, he's going to get chased down to the end. They're going to get the tombstone. They didn't get all 3 cores, but they got the Luna. They got this Bat Rider. So you do get Slotums. That's nice. But it comes at a significant cost. Now the tier 2 is just going to fall down as well.
You talk about getting the Slardar. That is, of course, a big core kill. But when we talk about who got the Slardar kill, it was a tower. And then when we think about who the shared goal went to, Luna lost gold in that fight. Tiny only gained about 200 gold. Hoodwink gained about 200. And you lost 2 of your cores at the end of that. You also lost your tier 2 tower. Pyke still has 2 minutes on that Aegis and should be able to take this lost remaining tier 2 tower out. For Amaru Gaming, this is... You're right? You know, 10 minutes ago, you may have brought up a point about how this game is actually turning out worse for Amaru Gaming than that game number 1. And it does appear to be the case.
Yeah, it just feels worse. It is not a fun situation to be in. The lanes weren't good. It's just the long and short of it. Mid lane was okay, actually surprisingly good, but you have this very powerful off lane with the Centaur and the Ringmaster, again, contesting this Undying that didn't get enough done. The safe lane, Pyke just ran over it with this Bane, and then you start to see the rotations. The gate rotations are always very powerful, right? With this Wind Ranger, you just run in, hit level 6, and then it just falls apart. As these lanes start to go down, you start to clear towers. Luna's not a hero that wants to play off your timings, so Luna's not going to be part of this. And if Bat Rider and Tiny are as far behind as they are, they don't have the damage. And now, okay, Eclipse will go down, but BKB and the box. Slotums doesn't particularly care. Wheel of Wonder, after the Yules, locks this Tiny in place, and eventually, yep, Wonder Kid will get taken down. So Slotums, and gets himself another kill. He's now 6-1-11. This is exactly the type of game you're looking for when you pick Slardar.
Very impactful. At the same time, he is reducing his BKB timings with all of these kills. Sure, you do get a core Tiny, but it does mean that Amaru Gaming might be in a position where they can fight against that Slardar later on, as Pyke, again, in a bit of a bind.
They're going to get a lasso on top of him. Remember, he does have the Aegis, does have Focus Fire on top of Michael, and that is just going to be a dead Wind Ranger. But now, this is the end of the Aegis. So Pyke, this is the perfect opportunity here. They're going to take him down for 51. A little bit too fast and loose with his Aegis timing. Oh, wait, Gardic? Yeah, okay. Turns out the supports are going to carry this one. Ceaseless Dirge, though, means the Centaur, or it means this Undying is going to come back. But yeah, I understand why Wind Ranger's making these plays. He feels really strong. But, again, you have time. This is right as the Aegis expires. Just not quite paying enough attention to that.
And she's making a Lincoln Sphere, so, you know, she's going to be even feeling more confident to make that kind of a risky play. Once you do have that Lincoln's, there's really not exactly a clear source of breaking that Lincoln's. The Bat Rider Oscar, probably just dead here.
Yep. Slot items, there we go. There's the blink, the crush, the stun. Rider dies once again. The nice thing, at least there's the one nice thing in this game for Amaru, and that is you do have a Bat Rider and a Tiny. So going high ground is really hard. You can always, even with minimal net worth, blink in, toss back, blink in lasso, toss back into lasso, take them under your tier 4s. And I'm pretty sure Luna, even though the rest of his team is not having a great time, Luna's getting relatively close to the butterfly. And even without that, if you get someone isolated with Eclipse, with Lunar Orbit going as you cast your damage, Luna can kill, maybe not the Wind Ranger with a Wind Run, depending on how that goes, but you can 100-0 anyone else.
And it's a great game for the Butterfly. It's also a great timing for the Butterfly. The Butterfly in this case means that Slardar has, that mischance coming on that Luna. Less bashes from the bash in the deep. Wind Ranger with the Focus Fire with that max attack speed, less hits will be proccing on that Luna. So it is a really good Butterfly game for as long as Pyke doesn't get to that MKB. And Slardar is one of those heroes that really does not want to get to that MKB. You want those high utility buffing items like that Assault Cuirass, just that go double down on your armor reduction and add in armor for your own team. Maybe a Shiva's Guard later on, depending if Centaur wants to create it or not. So with no MKB in sight for Starbacks, and with the butterfly on the horizon for Amaru Gaming, this might be a game where you can find a potential comeback. It's just going to be really hard, but like you mentioned, really good high ground defense. The question is, are they going to contest the next Roshan? Because that banner, as well as that second Aegis with the Lincoln Sphere on the Wind Ranger, will mean that Starbacks come knocking on your door.
Yeah, that is always the problem. Once you have sufficient defensive tools, right? Once you get that Lincoln's, which is 300 gold to 400 gold away, once you get the second Aegis in 30 seconds, you can split push all you want. But you're right. Starbacks, you can almost guarantee they're going to start to push high ground. They're going to start to really force this back. But with this, we were talking about with this butterfly timing with the lasso. If you are able to go and isolate someone, you can kill him. Now, the problem is, of course, is killing him twice, right? Even with the lasso, the toss, you maybe get a force staff on this Bat Rider eventually to break the Lincolns. Even if you are able to put the Wind Ranger deep under tower and chain stun and kill and get him once, I'm not convinced you're going to kill him twice.
You do have the toss, which is one of the better ways to deal with that second life. So if someone comes back up, you toss them deeper inside of your base, and then Starbacks are in a precarious spot where they have to decide to commit deeper and double down, or disengage and abandon their carry. So it does come with options, but having to deal with the second life is never obviously the optimal position you want to be in.
Now, for now, we're going to go on top of this Tiny. That's just an evaporation. Gardic, he's in the middle of this fight, and now he's dead. Tombstone on the high ground trying to cause some problems, but not nearly enough. And now it's a 16,000 net worth lead. Roche is up. Yes, they spent some BKBs, but again, this is just the problem. The synergy between Corrosive Haze and the Wind Ranger, just the lead they have. The big question is whether they're going to check Roche, when they're going to check Roche, and how they're going to decide to take it. But yeah, BSK is going to look inside the pit, says, hey, look, there's a gem. There's a Roshan. Let's go take both.
Wait, how long has that gem been there?
I don't know. I wish I don't think anymore you can't see who owned it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I don't know if this is something where Starbacks just dropped a gem off, but based on how they pinged it, it seemed like at some point there was a gem they got a kill. Gem dropped and Amaru Gaming lost that one. So now Roshan on Pike's hands. He's got a banner eventually for the push. They have a gem now to just totally. The Vision was already in a bad spot, but now they're just gonna totally close this map out.
They have 2 gems, by the way. There was already a gem on Slatim. So the gem that they picked up was sent back to their own fountain. So even if they lose this one, they'll have another one. Also, as I was bringing up the point about being able to toss someone back on their second life, the problem is they have such a good disengagement tool now because Blessed Kid has gotten that workhorse. So with every, it seems like with every passing few minutes, Amaru Gaming have more defensive utility against them that they have to contend with. So they're getting something. For example, they got the butterfly, great boost to their damage output, but at the same time, as Starbacks, they're building up 2 items that allows them to counter out that aggressive damage from Amaru Gaming, which is, I don't know if it's possible to play against that kind of a scenario where your Luna is the end-all be-all of your lineup, and it's a situation where your Luna is, or rather, may not be enough.
Yeah. I mean, at 17,000 net worth, the one hero is never enough. It has to be a Starbacks making some mistakes tonight. We talk about the Ringmaster shard maybe not always being the best. A, into Luna, right? This illusion-based hero is fantastic. And B, as you're trying to find some way to break high ground, having that high ground vision that the spotlight gives you is really solid. So for now, everyone went through the portal. We're going to start to shove this off lane in, this Radiant safe lane in, but there's a smoke behind this Wind Ranger. And they're going to try to see if they can find someone sharking around, maybe thinking about picking off the win as he's going to move forward. They do see this hoodwink, but not going to get him instead. It's going to be some dying. That's a tombstone down, and that's an unfortunate tombstone. I'm not quite sure. It feels like it's just a bit of panic from Gardic, but not only did you kill the Undying, not only is he dead for the next 35 seconds, now he doesn't have tombstone. Now that's 100, 200 more gold into Pyke, and not only is Pyke incredibly strong, very close to the BKB, not that he feels like he needs it, but now we're just going to go on top of this Luna. Pops the Eclipse, but Hoodwink dies immediately, and BSK taking just about no damage. Batrider gets the lasso, doesn't matter, he's dead. And now with the Eclipse down, now with all the bonus damage starting to wear off, you just do not have what you need. So Pyke starts to hit the tower. Can be very happy with that one, and yeah, they just can't do anything. It's 22,000, excuse me, net worth lead. And just with the auras, the beefiness of the Centaur, the lead, even these small leads, and this is certainly a big one, they become harder to deal with just because of the power of auras in the meta right now. And I mean, Luna's trying. We don't even have a Crimson out yet. That's the thing. Centaur doesn't feel pressed to get it. He's like, you know what? I got a Lotus. We're going to get a heart after this. Luna is not quite scary enough. Now slot him, blinks in, focus fire onto the Luna. Even with the butterfly, he's going to get taken down. Unfortunately, Undying not quite quick enough for the tombstone save. And that Luna now dead for 70 seconds. No buyback. He bought out for this. So this is at the very least a second set of racks, Tultris. But yeah, Gardic, they're going to tap out. Amaru Gaming falls down in 4th place. Starbacks, they got another shot. Infamous Gaming, they're awaiting them in that best of 3 lower bracket finals for a date with the grand finals tomorrow. And you know, Tultris, we went into this series saying this was going to be a stomp, saying this was likely going to be a 2-0. We were kind of right. We just had the team wrong.
To be fair to Amaru Gaming, is Starbacks looked incredibly strong in that game number 1, game number 2. Sure, the draft from Amaru Gaming, they flexed too hard, Huskar position 5, but Starbacks, they are playing with their timing so incredibly well. The gate plays that they're coming out with, the Shrine of Wisdom plays, the mid pushes, the tower pushes, and sure, they made a few mistakes. Pyke too far out on a Wind Ranger, was caught off guard a few times, but I would say that Amaru Gaming, they got overwhelmed with how quick the pace of the game was from